All right. It's just like we were there, but now we're here. Hey, hey. I'm going to put this in the chat. Hey, hey. All right. So it's the top of the hour. I'm interested to see how many people show up live. I did just check before I made my coffee, and we had 888 people registered for this session, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's
That's a
great.
lot of people. And oh, there we go. I did in the speakers chat. There we go. Hey, hey, hey. All right. So in the public chat, I just was saying we basically close to 900. I'll be the marketer. I'll round up to 900. We had about 900 people register for this. And one of the reasons that Chantal's in the chat, what's up? So what's fun about doing these live is it is really great to have people come in and in the chat, especially because when we do them as part of the Exit Five community, like there's people who have their own thoughts. And so if you're listening, multitasking, like please be in the chat, and whether you're going to disagree or give an example or, be in the chat, provide your own perspective. I've even seen people, drop in links to their LinkedIn profile or things that they're working on. And so use the chat. But we're going to spend about an hour doing a deep dive talking about SEO specifically. And before we get to my guests here today, just want to shout out to people. If you're in the chat right now, I would just want to see where people are writing in from. It's one of my favorite parts. So put it in. I'm going to go first. I'm Dave. I'm in Vermont. Todd's also got that cold weather in Jersey, Monterey, California, Vancouver, Dallas, Fort Worth, Maine, France, Ottawa, Indianapolis, Queens, New York, stand up, Indianapolis, Baltimore, Maryland, Helsinki, DC, Rio de Janeiro, Ontario. Come on, this is amazing. San Francisco, Germany, Mystic, Connecticut, Atlanta, Earth. Brian's on Earth. That's great. Shout out to you, Brian. Thanks for being here. Anna's in Bend, Oregon. Nina's in Copenhagen. That sounds nice. Steven's in Irving, Texas, with the Spanish spelling. Upstate New York. This is great. We got people from all over. The people are here. And now it's time to talk about SEO. So first, let's kick it off. I'm Dave. I run Exit Five, former CMO, startup marketer. Now I'm really just the man behind the scenes making Exit Five happen. And our goal is to help get you smarter, make you smarter about B2B marketing. And every now and then we do these sessions. And this first session that we're doing, we haven't done one in a while, is with our friends at Demandwell. We have Betsy here. We have Mitch here. I'm going to kick it over. We'll do a really quick intro, and then we're going to talk a lot about SEO, what's happening in 2023. I know people want to talk about AI. What do AI copywriters mean for the future of SEO? What about YouTube Shorts and TikTok? What does that mean for SEO? We'll talk about all that stuff today. But Betsy, why don't you kick it off? Quick overview of Demandwell and quick overview of who you are and what you do there.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Betsy. And yeah, I work at Demandwell, and we are a SEO solution. Really what we do is just help folks create content, help them create put their website together in a way that's going to drive traffic. I head up the customer growth team here. And so that's really the post-sale side of things. And so our success folks report up to me, and our content production reports up to me. And a little bit about me, I've been doing SEO and digital marketing for about 16 years, I think, at this point in time. The years keep adding on as time goes by. But so I feel like I've seen a lot of change in the industry and a lot of evolution as time has gone by. I don't think that when I first started doing this that a huge topic of conversation would have been AI, and I think we'll probably talk quite a bit about some of that today. So I'm really excited to be here, really excited to talk about some of this super geeky stuff because I love it.
Love it. Good to see you. Mitch, what's up? Tell us about your background. Who are you?
I'm Mitch Briggs. I'm also with Demandwell and working on Betsy's team. One of the unique things about Demandwell is we have a piece of software that helps, but also consultants and experts like myself to go along with that and provide services and consulting and guidance along the way. So I'm the one there working with a lot of customers on the daily basis to meet with them, understand strategy, do's and don'ts, all the best practices that come with SEO, and then ultimately, getting them to use the software and see success. So been doing this about the same time as Betsy, about 15, 16 years. We've worked together at previous agencies and other things. So we've known each other quite a while. So
Great. So we have some actual SEO experience on the call today. We're gonna tap into it. We have a bunch of questions prepared that we've gotten from the Exit Five community that we've put together ourselves. But in the chat, we will take questions, put them in the Q&A for me, because my staff and I here, which is just me, will have to organize them. So put your questions in the Q&A as they come up, and we will try to get to them. First question I want to ask is actually, we didn't talk about this before, but I'm going to ask you anyway, since you both have deep SEO experience. I talked about, and even promoting this event, I talked about how as a marketing leader, twice in my career, I made the mistake of not investing in SEO early enough, and got to a point later down the road where we're behind on the number. Everybody's, under pressure. We're trying to find new tactics, new channels. And a couple times it became like, well, actually, if our organic traffic was 30% higher than it was now, we'd be in a better position. And the real answer was, well, how would we fix that? Well, the best answer was we should have invested in SEO 12 months ago. However, one problem that you're under as a marketing leader is you're under a lot of pressure to hit the number now. And anytime you come around SEO, you are often pitched like, this is going to take time. This is going to take years. And so I'm just curious to hear how you would each handle that objection. Obviously, I've been burned twice, and I know that you have to build the right foundation moving forward. It's like not having attribution or analytics or the right marketing ops foundation. But I'm just curious to hear how you'd handle that objection and just your response to that.
Yeah, I think
just from
I'll go. Just with working with, I will say that the ones I like to work with the most are those fresh startups that they just have a homepage and about us and they're ready to go, because it's so much easier to kind of start and plan and just build that foundation and see that thing grow from 0 to 100, over time, versus kind of untangling, people that have a history of legacy content. They've changed and pivoted and trying to untangle something. But I will say it's never too late, right? It really starts with good keyword research. You have to really understand all the different ways your audience is searching for all the different things that all the problems you can solve, and finding those gaps. So you might have some content that is ranking well, but where are you not? And really just prioritizing that list based on the intent, not necessarily volume. I think people fall in love with the volume and say, I got to go after this big, giant category that everybody's searching for. Try to find those niches, because you can get some good wins early on. Not everything takes 6 to 12 months to really start ranking and going well. If you can really find some of those key keywords with the good intent, it's the right audience. It might be a little bit smaller in terms of actual traffic and search volume, but you can start to win easier, right? Especially if you already have been around for a couple of years. You still have that domain authority. You still have some of the other signals that count. You have backlinks. You have some things that are going your way. You might just be missing some of that key content and going after some of those key keywords that you've missed over the years, that you can start filling in those gaps and seeing things move the needle a little bit.
Betsy, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, one thing that I would add is just that progress is performance when it comes to SEO. So, I think that a big thing that folks think is, we have to have the leads right out of the gate. And there are going to be short-term campaigns that you're going to be able to run that are going to drive leads right out of the gate. SEO is just not going to be one of those. And so, starting from the top and saying, all right, well, what is the metric that we want to look at right away? If we publish a bunch of content and we make a bunch of updates to our website, what's the first thing that we're going to see? And then, like a domino effect, you're going to start to see some of those other things happen in turn after that. It's just a matter of understanding that those dominoes need to fall in the right order, and reporting on the progress as your performance for SEO, knowing that in the future you're going to see that last domino of leads and conversions fall with it, but it's just going to take some time.
You mentioned website as part of this. One thing that I see and I run into, and I'm sure in the early stages it's different. Where does the SEO, what should be home base for SEO? Because I see, and I've been in the middle of this, where we have our website content, but we kind of also have our blog and we write articles, and it's like, which do we want to rank? And then, hey, we have this blog post that ranks for this keyword, but it's not at all a conversion driven piece. And so it brings in a lot of traffic, but it doesn't do anything. And then it's like, okay, well then we come back to this question. Well, why have a blog at all? Why not just have exit5.com/whatever and have each piece of content in that example be there? Mitch, what's your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the website's going to be your number one magnet, right? And when you talk about making an investment, kind of what Betsy was saying, putting that progress, putting all that energy into something, if you want something to compound and grow over time, it should be something that you own, right? Your own domain, your own website. I think blog is a way that people naturally go towards to say like, this is how I'm going to produce content, because that's just naturally where they go to first. But what we're actually seeing is, building kind of a library of articles that interconnect is performing better often than a blog, right? Because blogs are something that, like you said, they're more less conversion focused. They're more just, straight text. Whereas what you might need is more just helpful guides,
Yeah.
articles, explainers, whatever you want to call them.
Like, do you even need to have a blog? Couldn't you just have, hey, we want to have content on it? Like, throw out the term. Why not just have helpful articles that are just on your website, and that becomes your SEO strategy? I feel like it becomes like this internal thing. Well, we have a team, and this person manages the blog, and I feel like if the three of us were building a company from the start, we would say we don't have a blog, we just have content on the website.
Hmm. Yeah, you're trying to explain that you have expertise in a certain topic or set of topics. A blog is one way to do that, but that's not the only way to do that, right? It's actually, Wikipedia is not a blog, right? It's just a bunch of connected articles. A blog is really just a sequential, time-based series of pages that usually automatically just get linked together by some sort of software. So, I think, again, it's why I like starting it from the beginning on a lot of customers, because you can kind of steer them in a different direction and try to, instead of just continuing to blog and blog and blog.
Brian says in the chat, trying to understand, blog has a negative connotation now. It's not that blog has a negative connotation. I've just see, at least in startups and companies that I see today, I think it's just typically treated as like a separate, it's just calling it a blog on its own. It's like, well, the blog has to have a strategy where, forget if it's a blog or if it's whatever, just as a company, we need to put out helpful content that people will find about things that they care about, and we want to funnel them to our website. And I've just seen that typically you have a website and you have a blog, and you end up kind of splitting one good thing in half, and you're sending some traffic to the blog and some traffic to the website, and you have to redo it. Okay, so of course, as you would as a marketer, we've prepared a bajillion questions in a Google Doc just in case nobody had any questions, out of fear, like, oh my gosh, what if nobody shows up? And we have a million questions in the Q&A already. But before we get to them, I just want to give the group this question. So I want to talk about two of the biggest trends, at least I think, in SEO right now. Number one is AI content, and number two is short form video. We've heard a lot about how, I don't know what the generation is, but there's a group of people who are now searching TikTok or YouTube more than they are going to search for articles. I want to talk about that in a second. But first, what's your perspective about how is AI content going to impact or change or alter anything for SEO? What's your perspective on that?
I can jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that AI is having a real moment right now, and it is a huge topic. I will say that I think there's still a lot of work to be done with AI for it to be something that isn't almost even frustrating to use. But with that said, I do think that there's some opportunity for digital marketers and folks who are responsible for SEO to take advantage of it, to alleviate some of the pressure of how time consuming SEO can often be. So I think that people feel like, oh, SEO it not only is it going to take forever for me to see results, but it takes a lot of my time to create this much content. I'm being told I need to create content, so much content, do so much for my website. And I think that we should absolutely start looking into taking advantage of automations that are produced by AI to kind of alleviate some of those things. But I don't think that we're in a place where we can receive artificially written content and feel comfortable or confident enough to put it on our websites yet.
Yeah,
Someone has a line. Go ahead, Mitch. I don't want to steal your thunder. I just hope you drop the line that you have in our doc.
Yeah, I'll just say, yeah, it's I think AI is going to be our new intern, not our replacement, right? It's not coming for a job. It's going to make our job easier. All those things that take a lot of time, take a lot of research, take a lot of, you know, uh, gathering of information, putting data sets together. I think it'll evolve to be where we're just interacting with an AI to say, tell me how these keywords could be clustered together. What's the search volume for this? What's related to these terms? Um, could you put together an outline that describes a good blog post for this topic, and then use those types of things to inform, ultimately we even say with our own uh, set of tools at Demandwell, of like, we want the machines to do the work for us, and then we want the humans to decide what to do next. Don't just let the machine run. I think the danger with AI is people think, I can just plug my website in, bunch of keywords, churn out blog posts, I won't look at it. Next thing you know, I have 10,000 pages on my site and I'm ranking for things. So that's not going to work. And that's not where I don't think Google wants anyone doing something like that, which is just letting loose AI to just generate long form content and automatically publish it onto your site. But I think there's so many tedious little tasks when it comes to SEO, and there's so many things you can gather and look at. And I think AI is going to help you be able to do that.
Also, you need to win with good content. This is not the early days of inbound marketing of Google, where just having an article about X topic is going to rank. Like, I'm going through a thing right now, and I'm working with a group, and we're working on some content together, and we put together the first draft of an outline. And I was like, hey, this article, like, I get that we're trying to rank for this keyword, but this is just the generic same stuff that everyone writes about, as it relates to this topic. There is still that element of like, how can we make ours better? How can we make it deeper, have more original research, have more interesting things? Maybe it's a better design, a better layout, a better hook, a different interview subject. I think that it's great to be able to use AI to get that as a jumping off point, but still to win with SEO, it's not just like, hey, we picked a keyword, we had a robot make some copy for it, and we're going to rank. There has to be some like, how are we going to win with this type of content? Okay, let's get over to the chat. The number one upvotes. This has been the number one upvoted question so far. What's the biggest gap between what people are doing in SEO and what people should be doing? Betsy, why don't you kick us off on that one?
One thing that I would say, like the first thing that came to mind is just the way that folks do keyword research. I think they do it as they do it sort of second in their process. They determine, hey, we're going to write about these things. And then they then do some keyword research and try to fill in the gaps in their content with that keyword research. And I think people need to think more about keyword research as being audience research, and determine what the pains are and the problems are that your audience has, what solutions you offer them, and really figure out what they're talking about, the topics that are relevant to them, and then use that keyword research to then put together your content plan to create that content. As opposed to writing a blog and saying, okay, now we've written this blog, let's go find 10 keywords that we need to just kind of like plug in here and there.
So it's got to be foundational. It's got to be done from the beginning. Mitch, you have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, I think folks tend to open on the O part, right, which is optimization, and they think, okay, I have my site, I have content on it, I have some blogs, I have some resources. Why isn't it ranking? I need it to start ranking now, so I'm going to go do optimization tactics. And a lot of times that takes form in doing an SEO audit, tweaking existing pages, maybe some internal linking. All of those things matter and are good exercises to do, but you're missing the big chunk, which is continuing to publish. Kind of what Betsy said is understanding all those search terms, where are the gaps, and continue to publish good content that matches well with how people search. So if you're not producing net new content and you're focusing too much on the O of optimizing what you have, we've just seen that the ones that grow the most are the ones that are consistently publishing on a weekly, daily basis, new content, new relevant content, continuing to add to that heap of just of authoritative, good content that all links well together to kind of build that nice library of information.
So my question as a follow-up for either of you on that is, if you're saying start with keyword research first, how do you push strategically? How do you push the team, or how do you create a strategy that I feel like it's very easy to go for the high volume, high level keywords? Like, wouldn't you recommend, like, hey, before you even go for these high volume keywords, like let's first prove out, like let's pick 3 to 5, long tail articles for, keywords that we can really rank. Do you know what I'm trying to get at? Like, I just feel like, for example, like if I was going to do an SEO strategy for Exit Five, am I going to go right off the bat and try to rank for B2B marketing? No, that would be a waste of time. But there's got to be something 2 or 3 layers down. Would you push people to start at that, second or third layer?
Yeah, I definitely would. I think what we prioritize intent over kind of volume, and it does still kind of go into that kind of pillar strategy or cluster strategy. B2B marketing might be that's very, very core center of what you're doing, but there's going to be all of these things, kind of satellites around there that are going to be more relevant and more, conversion focused, commercial intent, whatever you want to say of that individual searcher, that's going to identify them as more likely to be in your audience, more likely to be in a commercial mindset, more likely to be ready to convert. And it's going to be different for every single website, every single audience, but really understanding those and looking at giving basically more points to those words and trying to balance that out with volume and say, yeah, I'm not going to rank for CRM software, but I might rank for, CRM software for manufacturing if that's what I do, and going after that instead of trying to go after something big.
This is an add-on from Danny in the chat. How much would you focus on new content for a given keyword versus adding / updating existing content for that keyword?
I'd say it depends on where you rank today, right? If you were ranking like 12th and you had a great piece of content and it's, less than a year old and it's something that's been out there and you're sitting there right off the first page, I would focus first on trying to get that optimized, see what we could do. Maybe it's adding additional content. Maybe it's including, some FAQs or something. Maybe it's an internal linking strategy to just get that more visibility and more relevance on your site. Get that boosted onto the first page. And then the other way to do that is to think again about what are those satellites, what are those related pieces of content that you need to produce. And when you do produce those, you're linking to it as well. So you're kind of filling out the cluster over time, getting more of those authoritative signals. You're demonstrating to users and to Google, hey, not only do I have this great piece of content that tackles this subject, I also have all of this other great content that is related. And that's what Google's going to reward, and that's what users are going to see as beneficial as well. If you ranked like 80th and you're just like not even on the board, it's time to start over. Yep.
All right. Obviously, Demandwell is going to be the tool of choice for the B2B SaaS, B2B marketing companies out there that have a budget. Do you have any quick tools that you could recommend? Amanda got a couple upvotes in the chat. Is there a budget conscious keyword research tool that somebody could use?
Yeah, 100%. Google Keyword Planner. I know they don't give you all the data unless you're paying for the ads, but it's a great place to get some ideation and get started with keyword research. I know SEMrush, they have some free calls you can make. That's a great place to do competitive research. We still use that internally, right? To just look up like, what are your competitors ranking for? They have such great data. Ahrefs, same thing, great database of information to go after. Betsy, I'm trying to think of like smaller or other little tools.
I'll give you one. I haven't been in the early stage in a minute, but one thing that I used to do was just, this is separate from keyword research, but just going to incognito in your browser and searching for, coming up with a topic that you think and seeing which content is on there today. And you're like, man, this piece of crap blog post ranks second for this keyword. Like, we could definitely make something better than it. And so I think it's great to see what the output from the keyword research tools is. But I also think like there's also another element of like creatively and gut, like, oh, I bet we could make a better piece of this. And so I think also, like, if you have no budget at all, those are free tools. That's great. You can kind of go and figure this stuff out based on like, what are you searching for and what's Google showing you on your own. Look at this. This is, see, I'm a hacker myself. Alex says those are called manual page one audits. That's what I've been doing my whole career.
I like
Manual
that.
page one audits. I'm a big manual page one auditor. Okay, this question is in the Q&A, most upvotes by far right now. How does video on our site impact SEO?
I mean, I would say quite a bit. I think that so the way that I think about content in general is, you know, you want to have a lot of different content types. Not everyone prefers to consume content in the same ways. So on paper, I could be, you know, have the exact same background as someone else, but they prefer to consume content by reading it, and they're read-write learners. I am very much like a visual learner, or someone who prefers kinesthetic type learning. So I want to see pictures. I want bullet points. Long form content is really, really hard for me. If someone gives me a really, really long email, it probably sits unread for quite a while before I get to it. But I think that as marketers, we have to produce a lot of different content on our site in a lot of different ways to appease lots of different learning styles, so that you're not just, you know, creating one type of content for a specific user. So I do think that, you know, we have to think about video content in the same way that we think about long form content. And that, you know, is the topic there? I do think that the transcripts and the long form content will help Google. But I think one of the biggest things is that Google is looking to give a really great experience to a searcher. And if you have someone like me land on a page, they're going to pay attention to whether or not, you know, how am I engaging with the content that exists on that site.
Yeah, if you think about just from an algorithm standpoint, and are you checking a lot of the boxes, like has video, doesn't have video, dwell time, and you know they do take into account the statistics of how long people are on the site. Are they bouncing, and are they searching again? Are they likely to come back to that page? You know, those are the types of things that video can help do, right? And then the conversion part of it, right? Adding video can help people convert. So it's definitely one of those like small factors I would say matter to help you rank higher. And then there's video search. So uh, Google Search Console just introduced like a video indexation. So they now tell you if they found a video and whether they like it. You know, so there's some hints there that there's some signals that having video versus not having video, you know, peppered throughout the site is going to help your ability to rank. But you must have the long form text. If you just had a page with just a video on it, it's going to be tough to get that to rank.
Which is kind of what I see a lot. It's the default, like, let's put the video up, and then there's no text with it. Does it matter where the video is hosted?
I mean, I would host it. I would host it with YouTube.
Yeah.
If it were me, I mean, you got to think of where things are owned. So I would say YouTube's definitely a good place to start.
Even on your site, like even specifically on the website, you'd use the YouTube embed as opposed to using something like natively embedding it into your website.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Yeah.
Just for site speed. And the only thing I would say is if you want to get metrics on how like and own those metrics, is it Wistia? Is that you can like see how that is kind of nice. And there's other tools like that where you can actually get more statistics and engagement metrics from the actual video itself. But yeah, I'm kind of with Betsy. I'm with it's a little tinfoil hat, but I think the fact that Google owns YouTube and you're using their tools might give you a little bit of a advantage.
Hey,
yeah, I mean,
we'll take any
if
advantage.
we're purely talking SEO, I'd play in the same playground.
Love that. All right. What are key metrics? This is from Alex Miller. I'm here for some tinfoil hat. So if you got more tinfoil hat stuff, bring it on out. Bring it on out as we're 30
We
minutes
won't
into
talk
this.
about paid search then and its relation to SEO. Yeah.
Oh, no. Now that you brought it up, is there one? Tell me, what do I need to know? What is it?
There is no direct correlation, but let's just say I've seen when people start advertising that they somehow get a little bit of a organic boost as well.
Interesting. I have one experience with that anecdotally, and I'm not good at any of this stuff, but when I was at Drift, the company was initially named, they initially named the company DRIFTT, and there was two T's.
Hmm.
And because they didn't have the domain at the time. And so that was a nightmare for search because people didn't know if it was like Drift with two F's, Drift with two T's, with two I's. There's a lot of weird startup spellings. Then we finally get the domain, and then we try to rank for Drift, which is marketing software, but Drift is a very, very broad term, and there was just millions of search results for drifting cars and a whole, just completely unrelated garbage. And it took forever. It took months to get, if someone went to Drift in the browser, it took months to get Drift on page one. So then I think we did read something that was like, oh, actually we should, well, no, we started bidding on our own branded name because we wanted people to show up. Quickly after that, and it was very cheap to rank for that. Quickly after that, all of a sudden the website organically did start to rank. And so we ended up switching the paid off because now the organic was lifted. So there you go. Put that hat on. Put the hat on. Interesting how that works, huh? Yeah. All right. Okay. This question from Alex. What are the key metrics to track to truly know whether your SEO strategy / content is working or not working? I'll put that one up on the screen so we can reread it again.
I can jump in. I think that you probably want to start with the first metric that you're going to see pop up, which is going to be, you're going to get rankings, right? And then you're going to get impressions, and then you're going to see traffic, and then you're going to see conversions. And so looking at it sort of in that order of knowing just what I said earlier around the dominoes and how they fall. If you start producing content right out of the gate, you're going to see rankings first. You may get lucky and you may see traffic and conversions right out of the gate. But first things you're going to see is ranking, and then impressions, and then traffic and conversions. So at its simplest form, if you're tracking those things, those would be the metrics that I would look at first.
And that's good because that gives you an order, because obviously if you're going to present this to like the management team or a board or something, you might not always be able to show the revenue right out of the gate, but you can show them the funnel of like, hey, here's how we expect this stuff. This is a good leading indicator here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it makes sense just with, how the process works. You have to publish it. Google has to find it, crawl it, index it. It's going to get you kind of on the board. And like Betsy said, you could either be high on the board or low on the board, and it's usually not just for one or two keywords. Every page that you publish, you're going to start ranking for 30, 40, 50 variations of the keyword. And so using something like Google Search Console to understand when did that page get indexed, what are the keywords that it's starting to rank for, what are those positions, and then impressions and clicks, are those starting to move over time?
Cool. That's a great one. This could be related. I almost missed it. This one's from Anna. What metrics should you be tracking and leveraging to get ELT buy-in for additional SEO budget? ELT is executive leadership team inside of the company. So what metrics should you be tracking to get buy-in to further invest in SEO? Same thing. Is it that list and proving it out and starting to show some kind of funnel math on, hey, we did this. Here's what this roughly looks like over a quarter. Here's what we think it could be. How would you approach that?
I'm finding more and more that like the executive buy-in and C-suite really understand the value of owning a topic. And when you can kind of show almost like a share of search of around that topic. So that's where you have to kind of show almost individual keywords and show, here's the cluster of keywords around this topic that we play in, this market. And before we started, we did not have any visibility in this market. The number of impressions among these keywords was, say, 100 a month or something like that. As we've invested in SEO, as I've produced content and published these things out, we now have visibility and get traffic from this cluster of keywords. And we now are, you don't have to do the individual rankings, but I think doing it more of like a bulk, almost like an old school market visibility, and saying, before we were here and now we sat out to own this topic through content, and we produced these pieces of content, and now because of that effort, we are now getting visibility and traffic for those that are searching for this topic, and kind of just getting leadership to buy in that like there's tremendous value in being an owner of a topic. And when people Google something or look something up, you show up. I think people get often caught in like, we rank number one for this and number one for that, which is great. But I think when you start to show it as a map or like a visual cluster of ownership of a topic, that starts to really click with, oh, wow, that's really valuable as a business, right? That we have ownership, and we get to talk to people that are looking for those types of, solutions.
I've found it's been one of the actually easier marketing topics to talk to with the CFO or the CEO, because you're like, instead of some like, well, yeah, we're doing this webinar and here, it's like, hey, go to your phone and type the thing that we do, and it's going to show up there like on the first page. So like, sweet, let's now picture that for all of the related terms. I think it's one of the best ways to actually demonstrate like, hey, see this is how people search.
I think showcasing intention as well. So setting out with a specific strategy and saying, like Mitch said, we want to own more of the real estate around this topic, around this space, and then being really intentional about the work that you do for that. So when you spend a lot of time creating content around a specific topical area, it works. You do start to see those metrics show up, the ranking, impressions, clicks and traffic and conversions. And I think that also showcasing to your executive team that this is the area that we need to go after because we've done the research. This is what our intention was. This is what we believe is going to happen once we start doing the work. And here's what did happen when we did do the work. And I think being intentional about that and showcasing that is really helpful as well.
This is a great add-on in the chat from Alice. Showing how organic traffic converts to revenue is key, in my opinion. The leadership team doesn't always care about keyword ranking. They want to see the money. So I couldn't agree more with that. Do not stand up in front of the leadership team with a 15-slide presentation about this keyword and that keyword. Be like, here's how having this strategy is helping us generate revenue, and here's what we want to do. And you have some subset. I mean, I think sometimes this is the challenge and also fun part about marketing is you're not going to have perfect data. And so you need to be able to make the case of, hey, we've done this just with this one cluster for 6 months now. We think it could be this. We want to increase our investment in SEO from spending no money to we want to spend 20 grand. And now we want to spend 200 grand. And you're going to have to keep, using some data and some gut feeling to get yourself there. All right. I want to go to this doc because I want to give some preference to the Exit Five community people who added in some questions. This one is a little bit more of a career question. If you haven't gone down an SEO specialization path, what's the best way to get practical experience with it in order to satisfy requirements for more senior marketing positions? So I'm assuming that this is more of somebody who's trying to get a more senior marketing position. You need to have a little bit of experience in each area. How do you think you would approach that?
I can be. I'll say most senior marketers that I work with or have worked with don't have a lot of technical knowledge or I wouldn't say they're SEO experts at all, right? They understand the channel, they understand its relation, but that's why they rely on a lot of specialists to come in and start doing that. I think though, the best way to get experience is there's just so much information out there that can kind of get overwhelming. Is really just focusing on the relationship between content and keywords. The technical stuff is kind of its own thing as well. There's a lot there that matters from a best practice standpoint, but that is more of like for web dev. But think about more the best practices around content and websites and user experience and good content, how it all should link together. Like those are the things that I think are easier to learn, and ultimately are going to be more important to you as a leader, because you're going to be the one directing and helping people to build a really great 24/7 salesperson in the form of your website.
Yeah, I'll just double down on that. I think that a lot of marketers think of SEO as being this incredibly challenging technical thing that is confusing and they don't necessarily understand. But the reality is that SEO is just another tactic to help get your target audience to your site to, you know, engage with your brand, and hopefully, you know, schedule a demo. It is just another marketing tactic to get people to see you. And I think that so thinking of it in that way is really important. Just understand that keyword research is audience research, and that what you're doing is creating content for your website so that your target audience gets there. You're building that net to get them to your site.
Great. Yeah, I think your point about it being a channel in the overall approach is an important one. Lot of love for the Demandwell 100% organic shirt. Not to put Chantal and the rest of the team on the spot, but I would be willing to bet that if you purchased a Demandwell subscription, they would for sure find a way to mail you a $22 plus shipping and handling shirt in the mail. So go and buy Demandwell, buy Demandwell, and we're going to making this offer on the spot. They will send you, I'll send it to you, 100% organic shirt. You could have long sleeves. The best part about when you get a long sleeve shirt, you can also cut it and make it a short sleeve shirt. You can make it a tank top. It's actually 3-in-1.
And they are actually 100% organic cotton. So they're actually organic shirts.
It's great. Well, you have to buy Demandwell and prove it, and you check the label. Okay, here's a good one. Well, I say that every time. That's like, wow, man, when I do a podcast interview and then someone's like, good question, Dave. I'm like, don't say that. It's a crutch. And then I just did it to myself. Here's a good one, of course. How do you handle search intent for your homepage? We're a niche B2B SaaS whose homepage currently ranks for both branded and core product category terms. As more competition enters the category, we don't want to lose rankings for our product category to a competitor's page, which can better match search intent. How would you go about handling a situation like this?
I think in general, marketers rely really heavily on their homepage to do a lot of the lifting. And my recommendation would be to create a wider net through other content on your site to drive a lot of traffic. So I know that's not really answering the question around what would you do with your homepage, but my recommendation would be to not worry as much about your homepage.
Yeah, I think your homepage has a lot of jobs to do. And you can have other pages whose job it is to rank well. If you are ranking, you know, like let's just say you're number 1 and number 2 or something like that for this category, definitely don't try to like change Google to, you know, index something else instead. Like enjoy that ranking. And I think what Betsy says is now that just becomes the center pillar for that category. And you're going to surround it with related terms and related resources that link to it as the center of that pillar. There might be other categories that you need to create a new pillar and center around, but for the most part, if you're really ranking well, I wouldn't try to change Google's mind, so to speak. I'd keep that momentum, but to protect it over time as more competitors come in, you have to be answering more questions, creating more helpful long form content, and that's all going to, you know, help support and build authority over time.
Yeah, you could probably do both, right? Because if this is a niche company, if this is a niche offering, people are going to associate your brand with that niche offering anyway. It's not like you're a HubSpot, for example, where they now have 20 different products and you're going to have different, you know, people are going to come to your homepage, then go elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else? What others do I like? Here's a good one, just because there's always a WordPress question. We are using a WordPress theme that we bought in 2016. Will this have an impact on our SEO? Maybe. Don't know.
I mean, I think it really would depend. I'd probably want to dig into it just to see if there were some elements inside of the theme that you wouldn't be able to change that might impact your search performance. But the best practices are going to stay true no matter what theme you're using, you know? So you're going to want to pay attention from a structure standpoint to your title tags, your meta descriptions, your H1s, all of the same, you know, you're going to want to make sure you don't broken links. You're going to want to make sure you have a good on-page experience. All the same best practices stay true regardless of the theme. I think the biggest thing I would look into is just make sure that there aren't things that you can't change inside of that theme that might negatively impact you, just based on some of those SEO best practices.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. I want to skip. Let's go to this one's from Michelle. I've heard all URLs should build off of the primary, but I also had, and I have this in the doc. So all URLs should build off the primary website.com/blog, but I've also heard you can build via secondary blog.website.com, and it should make no difference to SEO. Depending on who I talk to in the SEO world, some would vehemently, great word, disagree and say it does impact SEO. So this is the classic, is this subdomain versus subfolder discussion? You both have been in the SEO world for 15 years. You probably answered this a million times. So what's the latest?
Subfolder, 1000%.
Can you explain that? Because they didn't use that term in the question. So just explain it like to a non-SEO person, like using a website example.
I think the quick answer is Google sees those as separate website, somewhat separate in terms of authority. So if you have a subdomain and a regular domain, you're essentially cutting your site and page rank authority into half.
So you'd want to have the first one, which is exit5.com/blog is going to rank better than blog.exit5.com.
And it's not necessarily that one can outrank the other, right? It's certainly possible to have a subdomain and that subdomain rank really well. What you're doing over time, though, is creating separate spheres of influence and authority instead of having one that you're kind of building on and building on and building on. So I don't want it to say like if you have a subdomain, it can't rank like that. It definitely can. It's just more about, are you investing all of your authority and all of your content into one domain that can get, when it gets a backlink, will spread out the page rank among that domain without it being separate. So it gets a little technical there, but it's essentially like, I just want to invest all in one property versus trying to split it into like a duplex.
Yeah, just consolidate your authority. And I think that you'll be rewarded. I love what Jonathan just said about Google recently made the change from maps.google.com to google.com/maps. Yeah,
they did. So there you go. Follow it, but get your hat on. If they said it. All right. Here's a good one, really good one in the Q&A, and I mean this one for real. My company, because I feel you, girl. Aaron Lewis. My company wants to switch marketing site to a new domain. We understand that there will be immediate and potentially dramatic loss in traffic, big hit to organic. Man, this is the part that hurts me. After spending 6 months investing in SEO, does all that work go to waste? It's like you do all this work and the CEO's like, we're renaming the company. You're like, oh, you're kidding me. After spending 6 months investing in SEO, does all that work go to waste? What steps can you take to mitigate that drop and build back up post-switch? What most influences that recovery of organic traffic? Great question.
Man, I've done so many of these in my career that it's the migration of content. I think where you have a case where all you're doing is maybe changing the domain and maybe reskinning it or something like that. If all the content essentially stays the same, so say you had 1,000 blog posts and 5 other core pages, you're going to have the same 5 core pages and same 1,000 blog posts, and they all interlink the same. Like, the less actual change that's happening, the least likely there's actually going to be any kind of dramatic drop. So if you're really truly migrating and actually keeping everything you have, and you're doing 1-to-1 301 redirects, so you're saying, okay, Google and users, the content that you used to love here is now over here. If you do that correctly and you map everything correctly and everything is that, you can actually see an increase because you're maybe you're improving something about the theme, or your page loads better on the new domain. You do kind of cut a little bit every time you redirect something. There's just a little bit of loss in page rank, but overall, I think usually really good steps to take to mitigate that. If you're keeping everything the same and just doing 301 redirects, you should be, in the good graces for the long term. If you're changing everything, like we're gonna, we're not even porting everything over, and we're just gonna start the new, and we're not gonna redirect anything. That's where you can get like serious hits, and then you are actually wasting that previous content and effort.
So do it right. 301 redirect. Rosie wants to know, is it still the case that if you post an article on your website, but also elsewhere, like Medium, it's detrimental to your SEO?
Yeah, and Medium's had to make some changes so that you can canonical back. There is a piece of code called a canonical tag, which is basically telling, it allows both URLs to load. It's not like a redirect, but it acts like a redirect to a crawler. It says, hey, I know that you're reading this content on this page, but the source of that information is over here. So best practice would be to, if you do post to both of those, have the Medium URL canonicalize back to the URL that you published on your site. And that way you can get the added visibility of being a part of like the Medium ecosystem, but the page that's going to rank in search is actually the one on your domain.
Yeah, Google's going to be looking for original content. And if they see the same content in two different places, they are not going to necessarily know that it is yours, unless you send them that signal.
I've also just found, like, from an audience, from a pure traffic and audience building standpoint, kind of like any channel, the way to really grow within a channel, whether that's Medium or TikTok or LinkedIn or YouTube, is to create dedicated original content for that platform. And I think that's somewhat related to that advice too. Like, if you're just taking your blog content and kind of like replicating on Medium, who's going to go and follow that, as opposed to like we're creating something dedicated and new. This is a question from Justin that we got in our Google Doc. What's the biggest difference between a content marketing strategy and a thought leadership content strategy in regard to the SEO strategy? Let me take a crack at answering that, and I'll see what you two have to say about that. I would say that they're not the same, but I would say that thought leadership to me is nested under the content marketing strategy. To me, it's like, as a brand, it starts with this fundamental belief, like, as a brand, we want to create content. We believe that if we create content, that will help us attract our dream customers to our website and know about us. Okay, great. How are we going to do that? One of those tracks is thought leadership. I still believe that if what you both said in the beginning, which comes back to like, what are my dream customers searching for, and how can we show up for those things? I think it's no different with thought leadership. If you're writing about thought leadership that has nothing to do with your business, it's going to be completely misaligned. The thought leadership has to be about your business anyway. So let's talk about Demandwell as an example, right? If your CEO Mitch is writing thought leadership content about something that his thought leadership content should be about SEO and should be about the future of SEO and what's happening in the market and where the world is going. Am I in the ballpark with that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the best visual that you have there is that your thought leadership content that you create is a part of your content strategy.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make up the entire strategy.
Yeah, I think push versus pull as well. Like, thought leadership is something you create and then you push out into the world, whether that's through paid or through social or through other email or channels. Whereas the other part of that content strategy is your pull, which is, I know people are looking for this information. I know people are typing this in. I want to be there when they do. So having a good combination of both is a way to kind of pull them in with your more informational and helpful content, and maybe direct them to your thought leadership as more of a conversion point. And then same with, if you have that piece of content, pushing it out into the world.
Yeah, and they can work in both ways. Your thought leadership could be an original report, and you interviewed, you broke down 50 high converting B2B SaaS websites and explained like what's working, what's not, and where this is going. They can all work together. So I don't think you can make them different things. Trying to pick one one or two good ones. Okay, here's a good one. This is from Jonathan. What are the biggest lifts, low hanging fruit you see regularly that folks can do for their sites for SEO? So I'm going to rephrase this as like, what's one obvious thing that if you were to look at 10 companies' websites, like 9 out of 10 of them are like not doing that, what could they go do?
One thing that comes to mind would be to create an HTML sitemap. I think that there's been a lot of debate over the years as to whether or not that matters. But I think what you're doing there is creating a really great resource for Google to come and find a clickable link to every relevant piece of content on your site, and kind of a map, literally a site map of the content that's on your site.
I'd say it's pretty clear who's kind of developed like a pillar page style of content, an article style, and who hasn't. And I think those that are creating those truly long form contents that are about individual topics that they play in versus maybe just doing thought leadership or blog pieces. An example might be, if you're creating if you want to rank for B2B SEO tools, instead of creating a blog that's like, these are the best SEO tools for B2B to utilize in 2023, that's what they're trying to produce to rank for that keyword, instead of just creating a large article about B2B SEO tools that has 2,000 words on it and comprehensive and helpful, and having that be the pillar page that everything links to. So that's kind of that quick win of like, instead of, it's kind of what we're talking about with the blogs. It's not always have to be a blog. Start thinking of different types of content that you can kind of put that stake in the ground of like, this is my number one pillar for this topic.
Awesome. All right. There's 600 questions still out there. We would never get to them. We could be here all day. Betsy, Mitch, thank you so much for doing this. I learned a bunch during the session. I know this will be exciting. This will be valuable for people. For those listening, we'll have the recording. We'll send that out. If you're in the Exit 5 community, it'll also be in there. And this will also be on the Exit 5 podcast in a little bit. Do me a favor. If you got anything from this session, go check out Demandwell. They're OG sponsors of Exit 5, and I'm lucky to be working with them again, so we can do insightful sessions like this. It's demandwell.com. Maybe you'll get a 100% organic shirt, and you can really tell us if the material is organic or not. This was great. We got SEO strategy, tinfoil hat, Google, AI. We talked about a lot of stuff. I hope this was valuable for people. Betsy, Mitch, good to see you. Thank you for doing this. Thanks everybody for participating. Great job in the chat. The unsung hero of this is always the people in the chat, especially when it comes to SEO. There's always good people in there. So thank you. We'll see you all later. You can get a free tinfoil hat. You have to buy 3 shirts. Every 3 shirts, you get a tinfoil hat. Okay. Goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.